is simply one of the best rows in existence. So I'm going to show you the hammer strength DY row that I modified. Now I had a YouTube short about it, but I'm going to show you a little more detail and depth, the thought process going into this thing. So this literally took me like 5 tries to figure out how I wanted to do it. I kind of just played around with it a little bit, and then I realized I need to change the angles a little bit. It literally took me 5 times with the welder to get this thing right. So one of the main things you're going to notice as I use this is the 3 different loading positions. So the biggest challenge with the hammer strength in its original form is it's very hard in the contracted position. So as I showed on here before, in order to really get it correctly, I have to stand back, put my hand here and grab it to create optimal leverage to actually be able to get a good peak contraction without having to use momentum or body anguish. That's the biggest problem with the majority of seated rows out there, flex leverage being the prime one. You don't want a freaking row that is too hard in the contracted position. That's why like the Magnum row is fantastic. Most of the rows I have allow that sort of taper at the end, including the Medix Avenger. So that's the main thing. You're going to see I can manipulate the strength curve based on where I put the weight. I can extend the set. There's an infinite variety of things I can do. It's more or less a prime strive unit. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to show you these angles. So this is the original handle, the original semi-supinating handle, which is phenomenal. But I've added a handle up here. You can see I kind of had it angled up. I had to play around with this angle a ton. This top feels phenomenal. The convergence and divergence is phenomenal. It feels almost like the Cybex Eagle, the newer Cybex, where you're arcing down. It's a phenomenal feel. Now, very similar to the Medix, actually. And then I added this handle. I'll show you in a second. I actually played around with this, so this perfectly mimics a pull-around movement. So you're going to see me grab this from the side. It's a perfect pull-around position. And then the bottom handle, it's just like a Nebula low row. Except the arc is different than a Nebula low row. It's not straight to me. It actually arcs. So I'm going to arc along the lat like that. You'll see me when I use it. All right, so I've had a fair bit of time to play with this, and I'm just kind of going to give you my overall take and review. This is the original handle. The original handle on this is pure money. I still like the seat all the way up and an extra pad in front to give me a little bit more pre-stretch. But the cool thing with this is now that the strength curve is appropriate. So this is the pull-around handle. So I'm kind of got my left side into the pad. I'm slightly turned to the side. I'm trying to pull around the bottom part of the lat. So both of these handle angles, the original and the pull around, really hit the lower lat phenomenally well. The cool thing with this is it literally will hit the entire back. Like you can do the entire back in one machine. That's the cool thing. So this is the pull around angle. You can see I'm slightly leaning to the side. I'm letting it stretch me all the way. And then I'm getting that extra little slight range of motion at the end that you can't get unless you're turned slightly to the side. And then this is using the pull around handle overhand. So that's a cool thing. It's multifunctional. So I'm going to show you kind of just a drop set. I'm going to do like a triple drop set, mechanical drop set. So this is most of the weight is I've got about half the weight in the end range, half the weight in the middle range, and a very small percentage of the weight in the beginning range. Just because of the way the weight distribution is, I find this is the perfect drop set. So I'm kind of supersetting the underhand, the regular to the pull around handle. And you'll see I'm going to get as many as I can here. Mostly this is kind of mid to end range focused. And then I'm going to go more mid beginning range, you'll see here. So you can see I've moved some of the weight to the top horn, the middle horn. So it's more middle to beginning bias. And then the last part of the drop set, like as you would on a Strive or Prime unit, is most of the weight. I've still got some at the end, but I've got a significantly more portion in the beginning, so the stretch is crazy and the contraction is easier. So it was like my third go around with this that I decided to add these top handles, and I'm really, really glad I did. As I mentioned before, it kind of feels like the Cybex Eagle, this NX seated row, the selectorized one. It's the same motion path, which is a fantastic motion path for a row. It's kind of similar on the Rogers athletic model I have, but I like this as much, if not better, because it starts closer to the body. Like it starts really close, and with both arms, like when the sweeping motion is right next to my side and right next to my lats, so really hits the mid-thoracic lat like phenomenally well from a deep perspective. So you can see it kind of, there's a downward arcing motion that just feels phenomenal. I'd love you guys to try this. I mean, try the whole machine, but I mainly made it because I wanted those pull-around handles and the bottom handles, but these are kind of just extra cherry on top. But I just love the way this feels. I mean, kind of, it's like the Medix, but the Medix doesn't have convergence and divergence. So, I mean, I think it's just as good, if not better, especially because of the Strive technology. But it's just the perfect arcing motion to bring my elbows to the side and pull down and really engage the mid-thoracic lat especially. Because of how the handles come up, the stretch on this is just absolutely crazy. Just holding that stretch, it's a crazy stretch on the entire lat. So I'm just in love with these handles. So I specifically designed this bottom angle to sort of mimic the Arsenal / Nebula low row. It's more of a sweeping arcing motion, a little bit more than just straight horizontal translation like the Nebula Arsenal, but hits the lats phenomenally well. Feels good one arm at a time. So this honestly is probably a top 3. I mean, I'll have to show you what I did to a couple other machines. Like the other one that's probably in the running is my modified Atlantis seated row, which is just on a completely different level now. But this thing just is absolutely phenomenal. You can hit the entire back with it. I mean, you could get rid of most other back machines with this thing, just because it puts you in the perfect position to stimulate the back. So let me know what you guys think. I've got a ton more content I would like to put out there if I can get some time. Again, it's just me doing this, so it would be nice to have some help at some point. But like I said, there's no compensation for this. This is just a fun hobby. One day I'll figure out how to monetize this somehow so that I can free up a little time and have a little help. So Nathan Clark, Domination Nation. Jim, have an awesome day. Really appreciate your support.